number word problems, okay? You already know how to do them. We've already done consecutive integer word problems. We've done the first type of number word problem. And now we're going to look at part 2 of number word problems. They're just a little bit harder. They're a little bit more confusing. But now that you know the first part, you know how to do the easier ones, these are not that much harder. You just have, there's more information you have to take into consideration. And so we'll start with the first one. It says one number is 4 more than another. And remember, we have to have our little table up here, right? That's going to say our first number is what?
X.
Our first number is x. I like to just underline that and put an x over it, so I know that number is my x. So that's my first number. My first number is x. My second number is 4 more than the first number.
X plus 4.
X plus 4, right? So I go x plus 4. Okay, so that's my little table. I know those are my two numbers. So once I solve for x, I know I can come back and say, these are my two numbers. Whatever x is, and then add 4 to it, and then got my two numbers. But now I've got to take into consideration this next sentence. Because in the past, the sentence was, their sum is 10, or whatever, right? So you just had to add these and make it equal to 10. That was your equation. But now we have to write a different type of equation, okay? And this different type of equation has to take into consideration everything that's in here. And we're gonna actually read this sentence from left to right, and we're not gonna move from one word to the next until we've added it to our equation. Does that make sense? We want to make sure we get everything in. It says 4 times the smaller. Oops, wait a minute. I don't know which one's smaller. How could I possibly figure out which one's smaller? Owen?
The one that says plus 4 on it?
That would be smaller?
Yeah.
No, it's another.
Wait, no, because,
No.
sorry. That's in the normal egg.
Right. This one, since we're adding 4 to this one, this has got to be bigger than this one, doesn't it? There's- Even if x were negative, right? Even if x were negative. If this was negative 10 and this was negative 10, negative 10 plus 4 is still bigger than negative 10, right?
But X is.
So this is the larger, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to say S for smaller and L for larger, okay? Just so that I have that near my table so I can see it. Does that make sense? Makes it so much easier. So it says 4 times the smaller. How would I write that?
4X.
4x, exactly. 4x. And then it says, so we just took care of that. That's all done. Is equal to, what could I do for that? Equals. All right, 3 times the larger. What can I do for that?
3X plus 4.
So like this, 3x plus 4.
Yeah.
Gong. What's the problem? It's 3 times the larger. What's the larger again?
X plus 4.
I only did 3 times the x, and then I added 4.
You need to put the X in the plus 4 in parentheses.
Yes, right? It's 3 times the larger. And when the larger is a binomial, there's 2 numbers here, I have to use my parentheses. Have to have that parentheses in there because it's 3 times the x and 3 times the 4. Does that make sense? Right? And then, okay, and then, so we did that. And then it says increased by 1. Plus 1, okay? Does everybody understand how I got that equation?
Yeah.
It's really not that hard. Make sure you go from left to right when you're reading and put something in for each few words, right? You've got to put that in. Now, what's the first thing I do to solve this?
You get all the X's on one side.
No, wait.
First thing
You
I
do the
do.
parentheses.
Oh, yeah.
So you.
Parentheses first, right? I got to get rid of those parentheses. So I have 4x is equal to 3x plus 12 plus 1. Now what do? I get all my x's on one side, right? I don't want x's on both sides of the equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 3x, subtract 3x. That gives me x equals, can I just combine these? 12 plus 1 is 13. Oh my gosh, there's my answer. X is 13. I'm done. I'm totally done.
No, you have to write the number.
Oh wait, yeah, wait. Oh, I have to find the numbers. But I just did, x equals 13.
Not at large numbers.
Okay, numbers. Oh yeah, I have to reread my last sentence. It says find the numbers. So I go back to my little table here, and I realize, my first number is x, which is 13. So the numbers, I'm going to just go like this. Numbers are 13 and 13 plus 4, which is 17, right? Make sense? You guys see it? See it? It's pretty easy, right? Once you understand the basis of how to do these, even when they're a little bit harder, it's not that bad. Does that make sense? All right, so now with having done that one, let's do this next one. Have you guys written this all down yet in your notes? Do I need to give you a second to write it down?
Oh, the second sentence, the second
The
one?
second one? Yeah.
No, I'm gonna write it down right now.
Okay, well, let me give you a second to write it down. I'll jump over here. So I'm not in everybody's way. So it says one number is 7 less than another, period. 7 times the smaller is equal to 5 times the larger, comma, decreased by 15. Find the numbers. Can I start? Is it okay if I start and you can just finish writing it? All right, so how would I, what am I going to put in my table? Top left, what do I do? What's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to underline something and put an X over it. What? Another. I'm going to underline another and I'm going to put an X over it. So my first number is X. My second number is 7 less than X. Why wouldn't it be 7 minus X? You have to have the another first, right? Right? And then you take 7 away from it. So it's got to be X minus 7. That's right. Okay. 7 times the smaller. Okay, we learned from up here that the top one is always smaller, right? So this one's definitely smaller, right? Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
It's the second one because it's subtraction.
It's subtraction, right?
Which means that's,
So this one has to be smaller than this one, right? So okay, this now is my smaller, and this is my larger. Okay, does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Right? It says 7 times the smaller. So I'm just going to underline the things I know I can write. 7 times the smaller. 7 times the smaller, so I have 7 smaller. Oh, 7x minus 7, right?
no, you have to put parentheses on the X.
Oh, I have to do the parentheses again. 7 times this binomial, right? 7 times the smaller is equal to, what would I put for that?
Wait, why is it 7x?
Because it says 7 times the smaller. And the smaller is x minus 7. So I have to do 7 parentheses,
Distributive
x
property.
minus 7, distributive property. And then it says is equal to, what do I put? Equals. And then 5 times the larger, 5 times the larger.
So it's 5x.
5x decreased by 15, minus 15. Not hard, right? Pretty easy, right? Okay, so I've got to use my distributive property, so I have 7x minus 7, right?
Positive. Plus 7.
Plus 7. Wait, 7x plus 7?
No, it's
7x.
negative. It's negative. 'Cause it's
7x minus
positive
7?
minus a negative. I mean, a positive times a negative.
No, it's
Is it
49.
7x minus 49, right?
Not that different.
Right? Boom, boom.
Positive times negative.
7x minus 49 equals 5x minus 15. Okay, so I got to get my x's on the same side, minus 5x, minus 5x. I have 2x minus 49 is equal to negative 15. I'm going to add my 49, add my 49, and then I have 2x's is equal to, let's see, 34, am I right?
Yeah.
Did I do that right? I think so. So divide by 2, x is equal to 17, I believe. So if x is 17, then I'm going to go back to my table and I see, my first number is 17 and my second number is 17 minus 7, which is 10, right? So the numbers are 17 and 10, right?
Yep.
It doesn't look like a 10, but it is. Here we go. Pretty straightforward. All right, so I'm going to stop this lecture. And